I remember the tone more than the words. It wasn't loud. It wasn't angry. It was practical. You live here free. Hand over your savings or get out. She said it as if she were adjusting a household policy. My son stood a few feet behind her, not aggressive, not protective. Just still. That stillness said enough. I had moved in 2 years earlier after selling my home. The plan was temporary. They insisted it made sense. Why live alone? We'd support each other. I would help with small things. They would give me company. It sounded modern. Sensible. At first, it felt like family. Gradually, it felt like I was being itemized. Comments about electricity, about groceries, about fixed income, jokes that weren't quite jokes. I began shrinking my routines. I waited until late evening to make tea. I avoided sitting in the living room during her work calls. I tried to take up less space in a house I once believed I was welcome in. The night she said it, something in me stopped adjusting. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I asked one question. Is that what you both want? She answered quickly. My son nodded. There was no explosion. Just clarity. That night, I sat at the small desk in the guest room and opened my banking app. I had sold my house carefully. I had saved deliberately for decades. I had no debts. Somewhere along the way, I had allowed myself to believe I was dependent simply because I was older. The numbers told a different story. Within a week, I met a realtor. I didn't announce it. I didn't threaten. I simply gathered information. The condo she showed me was modest, 2 bedrooms. Small balcony, clean hallways, nothing luxurious. But when I walked through it, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. I felt unobserved. I signed the deposit quietly. The real shift didn't happen in the kitchen argument. It happened at the closing table. A notary checked my identification, slid papers across to me, and stamped each page with deliberate finality. My name, printed clearly on the deed. No co-signers. No shared authority. That stamp did what conversation never could. Moving day was calm. I rented a small van and packed my own boxes. My son offered to help, but his voice carried uncertainty. I told him I had it handled. His wife didn't repeat her ultimatum. She didn't need to. It had already lost its leverage. At the new building, a neighbor held the elevator and welcomed me by name, reading it from the directory. My name, on the wall, on the mailbox, on the ownership papers resting in my bag. The first evening, I sat on the balcony with a cup of tea and listened to the quiet. Not tense quiet, not careful quiet, just stillness that belonged to me. A week later, my son visited alone. He walked through the condo slowly, as if measuring it against something he hadn't expected. "It's nice," he said. Then, after a pause, "We didn't mean it like that." I believed he didn't intend cruelty, but intention doesn't erase impact. "I won't negotiate my dignity," I told him. Not angrily, not theatrically, just as fact. He nodded. Something had shifted, not dramatically, not magically, but unmistakably. Our relationship didn't collapse. It recalibrated. He calls more thoughtfully now. Visits without discussing finances. There's an awareness in him, a recognition that I am not an extension of his household budget. His wife hasn't visited. I don't resent her. I also don't seek reconciliation. Some lines, once crossed, don't require punishment. They require distance. Independence at my age isn't loud. It isn't about proving strength. It's about removing yourself from small, repeated humiliations you've grown used to excusing. There was no celebration when I moved. No announcement. Just a forwarding address and fewer explanations. Sometimes I miss the noise of a shared home. But I don't miss calculating my worth in utilities. When I think back to her words, "Hand over your savings or get out," I don't feel anger anymore. I feel grateful for the clarity. I didn't get forced out. I chose to leave with my name intact. And that has been more than enough.